Today, what we're going to do is something I've been very fired up about. I finally get to teach this course that I've wanted to teach for a long, long time, which is when I wrote the book, Stack, or co-wrote the book, Emily, it was a phenomenal co-author. I also really was hoping to walk people through it. So today is that day where we're going to talk about how to do this. So what I want to do, but especially since we're late, is I want to do three things. And to value your time, I want to do this. First thing I want to do is I want to give you the ROI, because many of you are wondering, okay, is this worth my time? Is this worth my energy? Um, we we called this not your mom's book club, but not that my mom doesn't have a phenomenal book club, because she does, but because most book clubs that I've been in and that mom has been in, frankly, are book clubs where, we sit around, we drink some wine, we have some snacks, we barely talk about it, and those are frustrating. Those are so frustrating to me. And I don't want to have that book club. This is going to be a deep dive where by the end of the first quarter, what I really want you to do is to be able to go in to your personal financial picture and have this clear lens, these clear filters of how we look at our money. And at the same time, I want you to have already put enough money into your bank account and have saved enough money that you feel this confidence. Money management is a confidence game. As I started getting myself out of debt and as I started getting my personal financial situation in order, that was like a ball rolling downhill. I want you to feel that way about your money. All right, I'm going to take just a quick, so I want to go over that first. What actually is the ROI? My notes are down here, so if you see me look down, that's because that's where my notes are. I do want to see if I can see everybody's things. Dividend Gypsy, you believe in miracles? Holy cow. It's amazing. Leah's here. Hey, Tyson, Crystal, glad you're here with us. Who else we got? We've got Karen's here. Absolutely fantastic. Okay, let's dive in, guys, to exactly what this book club is all about, because this is going to be a much more in-depth thing. The big problem is how do we go after this, right? How do we go after this? We've got three ways to do it. Number one, I take the book and I just go after it. That is number one. For me, that works kind of. I've certainly done that with books. I didn't get the deep dive that I would have had if I had the author involved, where I could go into the thought process behind it and dug even deeper than what we have. I also certainly didn't give myself homework between the sessions. And, I would gloss over chapters. I'd kind of check out a little bit. But for a lot of people, I've gotten great reviews from people that have been able to do that with Stack. This is a book, and we'll get to this later. This is a book that was meant to be used. But as I said, I want to get into what the ROI is. But that's number one. Number two is you can also just have a book club. And one of two things happens. Either one, if it's like a lot of book clubs I just talked about, you barely get to the book. Just, yeah, I liked it. No, I didn't like it. And then we drink some wine, have some snacks, have some fun. We don't take it seriously. Or because we don't want to step on toes, we don't really dive into how that helps us. Again, we don't have any homework. We don't do any takeaways. We talk about it. I liked it. On to the next book. Third thing we can do is what I'm proposing here, which is we do 10 90-minute sessions around these 14 chapters, and we dive in to everything that's in here. And it's funny because my friend Leah, who's here with us, had a post in the basement, a couple great posts in the basement about following what people do versus what they tell you to do. It's funny, Leah, because to address that, you are spot on. There's a piece of Stack near the back that talks how to get rich quicker. And we actually call out Dave Ramsey, where Dave Ramsey didn't get wealthy. And I want to be clear. This book club is not about getting wealthy. We're going to cover that. We're going to cover how to get rich quicker and how to do things differently, do the things CFPs won't tell you how to do. But that said, that's not the purpose. The purpose is to get this foundation underneath you. So when you decide to make those moves that truly will make you wealthy, you've got the knowledge level, you've got the base, you've got the backup plan to make sure that this is going to go the way that you want, right? There's a certain literacy level. We recorded an interview today, or not an interview, we recorded a show today with our writer, Lisa Curry, who's a professional comedian. We started talking about Coverdell ESAs on this particular episode. I could see on the video, Lisa was completely lost. We started talking about Coverdell ESAs, and of course, OG's going on and on, right? About how they work, what's going on, why they're stuck, why they don't work for most people as well as a 529 plan does, but they work for the small segment of people. Goes on and on, right over Lisa's head. My main goal is to make sure, number one, you put enough money in your pocket that you not only worry about what it costs to join us, but number two is you've got the confidence to know that you've got that base and you've got this. Because frankly, whenever you do anything like this that's foundational, the keys aren't in those little wins. I like the little wins and we're going to go get them. But the big wins are the ones that come up when you're done at the end of the first quarter of this year. And you know that you've got what it takes then to really go after those much, much bigger financial goals. But the first step to $1 million is $100,000. First step to $100,000, $10,000. A friend of mine, Barbara Sloan, wrote this today on Instagram. First step to $10,000 is 1,000. First step to 1,000 is 100, right? First step to 100 is $10. We're going to talk about a lot of $10 things. And then we're going to go into the thousands and thousands of dollar things. So it's kind of a two-step process. The way those sessions are going to work is they are going to be interactive and different than those book club sessions that I've been in, where, you know, you've got one person dominating the conversation. It's not going to be like this information session where it's me. Guess what? As much as you want it to be, it's going to be you. This is going to be an interactive session where we're going to take pieces of these 90 minutes and you're actually going to work on stuff. We're going to get back together as a group then. And then I'm going to ask for volunteers. And in some meetings, you might want to be a part. Other times you might not want to. You might feel more comfortable writing stuff in our Facebook group. We're going to have a closed Facebook group that you can ask questions of me and the other people that are in the cohort with you so that you're able to round out and get everything out of this that you possibly can. That also infers something else. It's going to be some homework between the sessions. We're going to want you to do some pre-work before the session so that you can bring to that session everything that you need. And then afterwards, you're going to go home because we're going to get you started down the path. And as you know, when it comes to getting this stuff done, guys, it's about beginning the path. Once you get started down that path, I guarantee that you'll finish it, right? One great thing that my coaches, when I get my coaching from Strategic Coach, have taught me, if I just begin down the path, I will finish that path. What's the problem though? We never start. We never start down it. So that is what we're going to do during those sessions. I believe, and we're going to cover this near the end of our sessions, we're going to talk about advisors and accountability people and when to hire advisors and if you even need advisors, right? I believe you want to be surrounded by smart people. We're going to talk about when to fire advisors, when to hire advisors. This is not for somebody that wants to delegate stuff right away. This is for somebody that wants to know the ins and outs before they actually grab on to advisors, because you want to know what the inner workings are. You want to know what that time is. A financial advisor generally costs about $200 an hour. And if you take most of that time that is behind the scenes where they're working on your plan, I know a lot of people don't trust that time behind the scenes of most professionals. They want to know how it works. And if you're one of those people, you don't want to hire anybody until you know exactly, that's a bunch of money, how that works. And we're going to go into that. But the reason I bring that up is because you're going to have two people for every admission into our group. And the reason for that is I like the accountability. Now, when we set this up, I know single people that we were working with to set this up, we're like, well, that's unfair. You know what? It isn't, because if you're single invite somebody else along who's either your accountability buddy, you can make them your accountability buddy, or you can split the cost with that person. And if you don't have the second person, I'm happy to help you find that second person. So, but if you've got somebody else to come along with you, I think that's great. And by the way, married people, married people get both of you in, or people in a committed relationship get both of you in for your price. If that's your goal, is to have you two come in. I'm not going to question people who the second person is in their group of two, but I'll tell you this, to the single people out there, often I see married people aren't accountability buddies. They're enablers, and they lead people very quickly down the wrong path instead of to the right path. We're going to make sure that your entry comes with either a signed copy of the book, or if you already have the book, a sweet piece of swag. Those cost us the same. We want to give you either or. Got a bunch of other surprise we're going to give you, because I want to make sure that it is not even just worth the money, but is over deliver. I'm super excited about some of the other things that we're going to give you. However, it isn't about what you get. Well, I get a book. It's not, it's a pretty expensive book. If you're just doing this for the book, just go buy the book on Amazon, right? But if you're coming with me, we're going to make sure that you have the tools. Now, if you haven't seen the book, we're going to walk through that here in a little bit. But because of the fact that now I've been talking for 10 minutes and you've been here for 40, I want to make sure that we get any questions answered initially that you have. Let me just make sure that I've got all my points covered here. We're going to work on the big rocks. We're going to get the big things to happen. We're going to set the foundation. I covered that. It's interactive. It's not passive. My job is to make sure we don't have one or two people who are just dominating those conversations. I want everybody to participate, and we're going to pack hunt. We're going to celebrate each other's wins. I love that. Okay. Focus on the things that put money in your wallet. Yes. The big places, by the way, initially, let me cover this before we get to questions, which is, the automation sessions, which are the first 2 sessions. We're going to help you get automated. We're going to automate as many of those small sessions as possible. That's going to put money in your wallet immediately, because while you're in the process of automating, this happened with me, happens whenever I've done this in the past. You start finding places where money's slipping through the cracks and you plug those leaks. We also are going to go hunt. That is super fun. And we're going to find money there. That's where we're going to find some money. We're going to find then also money in the insurance section. We'll find money in the tax section. And then by building your investment strategy the right way, we'll talk about that, in a competent way, you'll be able then to take your investing game to the next level. We'll talk about both where to start for people that are brand new investing. What should you really focus on if you start out? And then we're going to go, and it's funny because of course we're going to use the same humor that we use during the book. The section on investing is called What to Expect When You're Investing. Every mom in our group knows that book. A lot of dads know that book. Cheryl and I read that book with our twins. And what to expect once you're invested is kind of the 201. And that, Leah, is where we cover how to get rich. So we're going to talk about those things as well. Okay. Some of the questions that we've had coming in, I'm going to stop. Brett, you asked, have I talked about the price? I wanted to talk about what you get first, but I want to get to the price as quickly as we possibly can because we got that. And for people that just either A, know that they want to secure their spot because we're going to have a limited group of people, you can go secure your spot now. People, and then, you're done because this has already gone too long. Second thing is that we also then will dig even more for people that want to know more of the nuts and bolts. But price is up next as soon as I make sure everybody knows what you're getting. What days and times this be held? Tyson says, I work long hours. Will this be recorded? Can I watch later? Every session is recorded. And what I'd like you to do, if you join us on a recorded session, play it as if you're live. Block out the time and play it as if it's live, and then be a part of the group, but at your own time. If you speed it up, if you spend a fraction of that time, this is really going to be best if you spend 60 to 90 minutes a week in the session or on the video version of the session. Some people just don't like the back. They like to participate. Like when I go to my coaching sessions in Chicago, there are times when I want to participate. There's times when I want to sit in the back of the room, right? And I go back and forth. Usually, by the way, you guys heard me say this before. I'm an introvert pretending I'm an extrovert. I prefer to sit back, think about what everybody else is saying, listen to that stuff. That is perfectly fine. So if you're that person doing the whole thing via Zoom, you can certainly do. Take part though in the Facebook group. Make sure that you're a part of the group. Ask questions there. Celebrate people's wins there. The Facebook group is really the glue that holds these sessions together between. The sessions themselves are gonna fire at Wednesday evenings, except for one. We've got one that's on Valentine's Day. And for anybody in a relationship, we're going to move that one to a Tuesday. But every session, the first session, which is your orientation, orientation is optional. That is next week. It's at the same time. It's at 8 p.m. Eastern time. It's going to be that time each week, 8 p.m. until 9:30 Eastern. And if you can only make it for half of it, check out, get the video then the next day. I'm going to take people later that want to see some of the nuts and bolts, Mom's message board that we've built for this, which is where all the videos are going to go when we're done with them. The outlines are going to be much more fleshed out than they are now. You're going to have the Zoom links when you go live. You're going to have links for your calendar. It's all going to be there. Second question. Yeah. Stacy has a great point there. The orientation is a separate session. It's 10 sessions plus the orientation session. So 15 hours of time and instruction hands-on with me and the rest of the people in the group. And then an hour of orientation, which can include a little bit of teaching while we set some things up. But once again, that one easily everybody can do via Zoom. You can do the whole thing via Zoom. And I don't think that that's going to hurt you, but certainly pretending like you're in the group and setting that time aside. Setting the time aside is the big thing, guys. Whether you join us live or not, if you can set that time aside and make a commitment to yourself that you're going to get through this in 10 weeks, 1 day a week for 10 weeks, you're going to make your way through it. By the end of the first quarter, you're going to have gone through this entire thing and more. Like everything that's in here, we're going to make sure that you have on your list either done or you know when it's going to affect you in the future. Because some of the stuff you just need to know, I need to watch out for that later. It's not anything you can do now, but anything you can take care of now, we're going to get on that train and do it as much as we can. All right, Brett, will there be worksheets outside the book or resources outside the book? Two things. Yes, there's going to be worksheets. There's also going to be things that you're going to do on regular paper with me while we go through this. So we're going to give you a list in the orientation of what you need. And then before every session, there's going to be pre-work. So let me give you an example. For a lot of us, you can find a bunch of money in your car insurance, your renter's insurance, homeowner's insurance, life insurance. You can find tons of money in your insurances. A lot of the time, we don't even redeploy that money on stuff outside of insurance. Frankly, for a lot of people, you redeploy the insurance in a smarter way. So you're actually getting what you really need instead of having been sold insurance and using these arbitrary numbers people use. Once you understand how insurance works, it actually is much easier than you would think that it is. And so for some of you, you're going to rearrange your insurances. To do that, we need copies of those insurances in front of us Because if we don't have those when we're going through the insurance portion, that's one. Another thing, we go into investing, especially what to expect when you're invested. We're going to talk about the efficient frontier, and we're going to talk about investment policy statements. When we get into some of this deep stuff that's in the last third of the book, for those things, you're going to want to have a list of your investments that you already have in front of you. Same thing for taxes. We're going to take a look at your tax form, whatever taxes you're filing right now, wherever you're at, we're going to go there. And by the way, I know some of you aren't in the United States. You're going to want to use the lessons that we talk about. I'm going to talk about a little bit of tax code in that one section, but there's not a lot of US specific stuff. It's much more about how to use opportunities within what we call the tax triangle to make better, more flexible tax decisions, to work within the parameters of my timeline. And it's funny because I'm stopping because look at me, I'm already talking jargon from the book. But your timeline and what time you need the money, and then the tax shelters that are available wherever you live. And that's what you're going to be looking for. That is universal stuff that we can apply wherever we want. All right. Brett, is there a limited number of people be allowed to sign up? And then let's just get to the price, guys. The answer is yes. We have capacity for 30. Do I think we're going to get 30? No, frankly, because this is the first time and because I started half an hour late and we have set this up in such a short time, we're going to have a much smaller group, which brings me directly to Dee's question, which is the price. So for something like this, where we're spending so much time with you to make sure that you get it, and then I look at the value that creates for you. We asked a bunch of people what they thought that the price would be. And if we compare it to what financial planning costs, we compare it to the amount of time that we're together. You know, the average person said it's between $1,500 and $2,000 is what that should be. We're not going to be there. We will be at $1,200. $1,200 is what this is going to cost for every cohort, but this one. This one, because of the fact that it is brand new, frankly, it's the first time. There's going to be some bumps in the road. We're presenting this stuff for the first time, so we're going to give our first group a break. There's something else that's cool about this, by the way, when we talk about the price, is that because I'm expecting a smaller group, it's probably going to be much more me and you than what future groups are going to be. I think there's a ton of value for 30 people at $1,200. Otherwise, we wouldn't offer it that way. I firmly believe that you're going to find $1,200 in the first 3 or 4 weeks. I think that you're going to find way more than that, frankly. If we look at what's happened in the past, I'm going to bet strongly that that's the case. And here's how much we're going to bet on that. We're going to have a drop off at the end of 3 weeks. If you think that this at the end of 3 weeks was not worth the money and this is not going to go away, just tell me, please God, tell me, and go, you know what? I don't think I'm getting my money's worth on this thing. And we will let you go. You'll know enough at 3 weeks about whether we're there. And we should frankly have made the initial investment back, and you should already be on your road to these bigger thousands of dollars and tens of thousands and hundreds of $1,000 things that come in the future. And I'm not saying there's one move you're going to make that's going to make $100,000, guys. I'm telling you, there's going to be a framework that you're going to be able to work from so that you can make those big moves and understand where they come from. A guy named David Allen wrote a great book called Getting Things Done. It's one of my favorite organizational books. And he says, you want to be like water. So when the water flows one way, you can recognize that. I see people miss opportunities all the time. Certainly I missed opportunities a ton back in the day when it was a mumbo jumbo, all this financial stuff in my head. I don't want that to happen. So what I want to have is that you've got this framework so that when opportunity presents itself, you can be like water. That's the key. So the price this time, we're going to give you a $500 discount this time for being in our first group. So I believe it's going to be a smaller group. We're going to do the 10 sessions of 90 minutes. Those can all be either recorded or live. But if I were you, I would set that time aside. Please. I mean, I'm very happy taking people's money and doing nothing for it, that's a horrible, horrible ROI for you. The ROI for you is in dedicating that time once a week, get this over with. By the time March is done, you've got all this behind you. So it's $700 that covers two individuals. Either you can make it somebody that you're in a relationship with, you can make it somebody that you want to be an accountability buddy, you can make it just a friend and you guys split the cost. What I'm hoping is they become an accountability buddy, right? And if it's a committed relationship you're in, I know there's a lot of enablers out there. I would love to see people get on the same page. I got this question before, by the way, about, hey, I read Stacked. I know 85% of this already. My spouse doesn't. They're like, good for us. 100%. Absolutely. If the spouse wants to go, please don't send anybody kicking and screaming into this. But in terms of like a Valentine's Day thing where you guys are getting on the same page, that's absolutely fabulous. Let's see what else we have. Limited number. Tina, can you mention something about yes. A question about financial independence and people not being financially independent. If you, we can actually even talk about this book and about the ROI behind this book. Let's dive into this. But if anybody has to go before I dive into exactly what the lessons are and where we're going, the link to sign up is stackingbenjamins.com/book club. Go right to the bottom. You'll see the price on that page. You'll see all of the details that I just talked about on that page. And if that's enough for you, we'll see you later. Go join us. For those people that want to stick around, I've got a little more. I'm going to take a drink of water. I'm going to take a look through the comments here briefly, and we'll keep moving. If I can get there, what did I do with it? There it is. Not passive, just passive aggressive. My dividend gypsy, wherever you are always so darn funny. Brett, Tyson, for people that have questions, bring those on. If you don't, all right, I'm going to keep moving. Let's get back on it, guys. So let's talk about the book. What are we getting into with Stacked? The book is a, hey, Mike, good to see you again, buddy. The book was written to be used. It was when I read my favorite books in personal finance, my goal was to have a book that solved my friend Ramit Sethi's problem. And Ramit's problem at the start of I Will Teach You to Be Rich is like, books always start with goal setting, and goal setting sucks and it doesn't work. We had John Acuff on the show last week talking about the same thing, right? And about helping people get over that and be able to set goals that actually work. And I thought that was phenomenal what you talked about, looking behind you instead of freaking out about the future, because then you're much more likely to get goals that you love, and you're much more likely to stick with them. And I absolutely love that. And you're not going to be intimidated by setting it. The problem I've always had with goals is I also thought that goals needed to fight it out in real life. Like we set a bunch of goals and they go nowhere because real life hits us. So I wanted to solve that problem, but start with goals and then work through a whole financial plan from beginning to end of the book. In fact, when you look through reviews of the book, the ones that I always love are the ones that say, this book's really basic. It is at the beginning, because that's where we start, is at the beginning. And then if you read the last third of the book, it's amazingly advanced stuff in the back of the book. So we begin your journey where it should begin, by stacking that first Benjamin, getting out of debt, getting your financial house in order. And by financial house in order, I mean setting up a dashboard, getting automation working, getting that emergency fund in place, figuring out which of your goals are the important ones, making sure that money's going directly to those, diving into your budget, looking for cash, getting your insurances set up. Then we go to from your first Benjamin to stacking Benjamins. And that's when we begin investing. We begin talking about mindset. We talk about your estate plan. We actually go into a much more deep insurance strategy there. And then third, stacks and stacks of Benjamins. We talk about how to get rich quicker, how to put your team in order, those types of things. I wanted the book to be fun and campy, just like I want these sessions to be fun and campy and much more interactive than this is, where I'm staring at a screen talking to you. It'll be back and forth in our Zoom call, but I modeled this after the Hardy Boys Detective Manual meets the Cub Scout Wolf Guide. And there's a reason for both of those. For those of you that know the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew, when I was a kid, I carried around this book everywhere, my brother Tony and I. And the reason was that I loved Hardy Boys mysteries, but when we picked up this, it was how to be a detective. And when you opened it up, it was written with the help of a real live retired FBI agent. And I remember telling my brother, like, this is legit. Like, we're learning all the real stuff around how to be an FBI agent. Like, how amazing is this thing? So I was super excited about that. And I thought, if people can feel that excitement about, hey, I like the Stacking Benjamin show, I like the stuff that they do there. If I could have a manual that helps me get those things that they talk about, but scattered right in 3 days a week, and the segments that we do, the kind of ADD Tonight Show kind of presentation we have, if we could unify that, that's number one. Number two is the Cub Scout Wolf Guide. And what I love about the Scouts is that gamification is a big key to winning when it comes to anything that you do. Turn into a game, it's much more likely to work. Look at if you've got children, you know what I'm talking about. Mike, I'm sure you do this with your kids, right? You turn cleaning the house into a game. We turned so many things into games. I gamify stuff myself. I mentioned earlier that if I start a task, I will finish it. I will turn into a game just to start the thing that I know I really need to do, right? Put on my running shoes is the hardest part of going for a run. But the Cub Scouts did something amazing, which is that they're not chapters. They are achievements. They're achievements. And the cool thing is that we did the same thing here, because it's not about what you know, it's about what you do with it. I have met so many broke professors, people that know everything. Crap, I see this online and in some of the online forums that I end up spending part of my day in. These financial forums are these professors that know everything, and then I've met these people's backstory, and they know a lot. And you find out what they're doing with this crap that they know, and they've done nothing. It's all about what you do. So you'll see at the end of each chapter, we have achievements, and each chapter is not a chapter. It is an achievement. And we check the boxes. And at the end of every checkbox, we have Tina made these sweet badges at the end, a place for your mom to sign it. And you get the achievement. There's 14 achievements in the book. Plus there is a, we have a certificate at the end of the book. I'm looking for it, that mom signed, that you can also, rip this out and put it on your refrigerator. Because we're very proud, of you. If you did all the achievements, we're going to go get all the achievements. So you'll be able to get the certificate. That is our, that's our goal here. So we're going to work through the achievements. There's some other achievements we're going to do that aren't in the book. Frankly, because I can be with you, doing it with you, we're going to add some achievements. We're going to swap some of these things out. So those are exciting. By the way, another piece of the book that that won't be a part of the course, but certainly will be a part of your read as you're reading it, is I've got experts in all of these categories who are friends, I feel very lucky to say, who helped me with it. Gene Chatsky from the Today Show, Jill Schlesinger, who has, if you guys know me, that's my favorite personal finance podcast, Jill on Money. Jill from CBS News. Tiffany Aliche, the Budgetnista, good friend Paula Pant, Netflix star Paula Pant. Who else, man? Bola Succumbi from Clever Girl Finance, Dr. Brad Klontz, behavioral psychologist, so many Money Girl, Laura Adams. Anyway, so many good people. You'll be able to read also their take on what we've got here at the end of every chapter. So those are some of the buckets. I want to share my screen. Actually, I'm going to share with you the page. Tyson's got a question. Are we going to have access to advisors to hire in the appropriate chapter? Tyson, I'll be able to answer those questions about who you may want to hire if you decide to hire. When we get into that, though, what you're going to find is that my idea of what an advisor does and what a good advisor is much different than people may think that it is. I know when we've talked about this at Camp FIs, people go, oh, I didn't think about advisors that way. When I give talks, talks to groups, we talk about hiring advisors. And so the answer there is if you need help with advisors, yes, I will not be, as part of the curriculum, recommending specific people. You will know, by the way, during that, because Tyson said, basically, is OG going to be there? You will know whether OG is a fit for you or not, because you're going to have this list of criteria that fit you. And certainly for some people, he's a great fit. For other people, he's a horrible fit, right? Just like for some people that just want to delegate all this, doing 10 weeks of a book club with me would be the last thing they want to do. I just want to delegate it. I don't want anything. I don't want to know I don't want to know how any of this stuff works. I don't care. Just, you know what? That's not a person who would be a great fit for this book club. So, I hope that answers the question. Let me share my screen. This is the page in progress. And what you'll see here is this is Mom's message. We've got the calendar links to the sessions. We've got a link to directly go there. So if it's not on your calendar, if you get home from work and you realize, hey, I can catch the last half of this, I'll do the last half live, do the first half, just click in here. This is going to be your one-stop shop. And then these sections are going to be more filled out. For now, I just have the basic building blocks in here, but we are going to fill these out with exactly what the big takeaways are. For the question about the worksheets, we'll have any worksheets that you need here. We'll have the pre-work here. All of these sessions, this is going to be a monster page. It's going to be a monster page. The header here, one idea to rule them all, is session 1. That's timelining your goals. We're going to do goal setting the right way. By the time you get through this first session, you're going to know what your goals cost. You're going to have at least a good idea of what your goals cost. You're going to know which ones win, which ones lose. You're going to realize where your money's pointed in the wrong direction. Speaking with Jesse Meekum today from YNAB, you need a budget, or as he calls it now, you're not a budget, because he thinks it's a spending plan. He doesn't like the word budget. When Jesse and I were talking today, Jesse was talking about how when people get their goals, it usually isn't big things that they do. It's that the money was right in front of them the whole time, but they had no idea. Second, then we're going to set up your dashboard. Notice how not only do we make sure you're aiming at the right thing in lesson 1, lesson 2, then we're going to begin automating right away. Because the more we can automate those little tiny decisions and those little tiny wins, guess what happens? Your brain then is freed up to make more money and to focus on the big wins with your investments. That's what we want to be thinking about. But initially, as I mentioned at the top, we have to be able to get those little things going. So that's number 2. And then third, we jump into budgets. Different budgets are great with different people. Talk about the difference between tracking and budgeting. Certainly a lot of people like YNAB. They like that type of a budget. Session 4, this is going to be a rare Tuesday class, because I love you all, but I don't want to spend Valentine's Day with you. Increasing your income. This area is going to be way filled out because too often do I see do people just have an income problem. And in a lot of cases, that's more easy to solve than you think that it is. We're going to talk about making more money, talk about side gigs, talk about asking for raises, and talk about locking down the income stream. That's why I have that in caps, because too often what happens, we make more money and then you guys know exactly what happens. Then all of a sudden you need more stuff, right? And it's the biggest lie I told myself when I was bad with money. If I just make a little more money, then things are going to be better. Big fat lie, because I couldn't manage any money. Didn't matter how much money I made. I was always going to blow it up. Debt, or driving a moped down a dirt road to hell. And the credit chapters, I'm putting those together. 1 for me, 3 for the bank. We're going to talk about why we're not going to start with consolidation. But the big thing here for me is thinking like a CFO, and then thinking like somebody who wants peace, because those are the dichotomy. On one hand, the CFO is maximizing everything and finding out how to streamline your debt and make it work for you versus doing what your lenders want. That's on one side. And the other side is somebody that wants peace. And even if the math doesn't work out, damn it, I want to get rid of that debt. We're going to talk about both of those. And I love both of those solutions, but that's going to be more based on your timeline, which one of those you follow. And by the way, I'd want to know how the other one works as well. So I can always do I go this way or do I go this way the next time that I'm thinking about taking on debt? Go through the basics of investments. We're going to look at timeframes, tools to evaluate them. I'm going to have you evaluate investments that you've already made, if you have them. If you don't, if you haven't started investing yet, I'm going to give you the investments I think that you should begin with, that I think are the best ones to begin with. And I'm going to show you how to evaluate those using tools that are on the internet and that are free. Not every tool that I introduce you to, by the way, is going to be free. YNAB, as an example, is not free. I don't use YNAB. I use Monarch Money. Again, another tool that's not free. We'll talk about free tools and we'll talk about paid tools. And you'll, just like you are for this session, you're going to figure out whether the ROI is there for you or not. And then here at the end, risk management horror stories, what to expect now that you're invested, inflation and taxes, hiring advisors who won't bleed you dry, and wrap up. The very last thing we're going to do as we wrap up this session, guys, is we're going to help you get your board of directors together. The group of people who are the people helping you. And it's funny because I met people, my friend Chris Mamula, who wrote the book, the Choose FI book. Chris, I remember when he was on our show, and I love Chris, but Chris was like, my parents don't have advisors anymore. I helped my parents. I helped them fire their advisor. Their advisors were terrible. And I was like, yes, your parents' advisors were terrible, but you're now their advisor. And he laughed and he agreed. We have advisors, whether we call them advisors or not. So if we have people who we trust, why wouldn't we do a little bit of formalization on that process and bring them into my inner circle and make it work for you? That they can be much more powerful if you have them dovetail. So that is a run through of where we're at. Let me go back to the questions. Will there be any in-app purchases, or is the 700 all in? Oh, Jay, I cannot stand. That's a great question. I can't stand in-app purchases, number one. So in terms of the education, it's all in. And in fact, we're going to, yeah, I didn't want to talk about that. I'm hoping we're going to deliver some stuff that people don't expect in this group, but the 700 is all in. There is no more, give us more money. There's no upgrade. There's no upsell. This isn't like Tony Robbins where you go to you read the book and then you go to the first class that takes you to second class, takes you to third class, takes you to the next thing. None of that. I can't stand that. Not for me. And we don't have any of that. So the answer is nope. but I do want to go back to a few minutes ago. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to tell you about other people's tools that I don't have any stake in, that I think are good tools. I just mentioned I use Monarch Money. I also mentioned we talked to Jesse Meekum from YNAB. Those are two great budgeting tools, but for two totally different types of people. Tiller Money is another great one. Cube Money is another great one. We're going to talk about these different tools and how they work, but we're going to do it based on your personality so that you're able to make a decision which of those. I think when it comes to budgeting tools, there are some free things out there. One that used to be called Personal Capital, as an example, is a free tool. There's a bunch of marketing that comes with that. So I don't love that. There's some other tools that are free. We're going to talk about the free ones. We're going to talk about the ones that aren't free. You can decide. Me personally, by the way, I love paying a tiny little fee to those people so that I am not marketed, and I've always found it to be worth it. Your experience may vary, but we're going to go through all of them because I've worked with people that Tiller would be great for, and other people where YNAB would be great. And those tools do two totally um, different things. I definitely would use both, but they're for two totally different types of people. So I hope that answers the question. Can't stand in-app. As a guy that I play video games to unwind sometimes, and it drives me crazy when they try to get me to buy more. I'm like, I already bought your damn game. Like, are you kidding me? You want me to? No, I don't need the special jersey. So please, God, no. All right, guys, I think that's it. I apologize that it took us so long to figure this out. Obviously, we haven't done a YouTube live in forever. Thanks to Tina for helping me finally figure it out a half an hour in. The good news is we do a YouTube live next time. We know where we're going. We know where the new button is that we didn't know was there. So that's it. If you've got more questions, email me, joe@stackingbenjamins.com. The orientation is next week. If you need more time than that, that will be also assuming that we don't have it full by then. We may have it full. Be great if we had it full. But as I mentioned, I think that this is going to be a smaller group. And I hope it is, because I like spending time with a few individuals that are going to help me make this a great session this time and make it great for the people that come behind you. And that's why we're giving such a big discount to this first group as well. So good for everybody. I see the comments are moving. Let me check that. That's it. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Hope to see you in the book club. Bye-bye.